What happens when one of the world's richest men walks into a struggling family-owned sushi restaurant? This heartwarming story of unexpected kindness will leave you inspired and craving more than just sushi. It was a little past 10 p.m. when Elon Musk left his meeting at the Tesla headquarters in Fremont, California. The meeting had dragged on longer than expected, diving deep into engineering roadmaps and discussions about the future of sustainable energy. His stomach grumbled, reminding him that he hadn't eaten since midday. For a man who often joked about working more hours than there were in a day, skipping meals wasn't uncommon. But tonight, he felt the pang of hunger more acutely. As his Tesla Model S glided silently through the quiet streets, he noticed a small, unassuming restaurant with a glowing red lantern swaying gently in the night breeze. The handwritten sign above the door read, "Hoshizora Sushi." The warm light spilling from its windows stood out against the otherwise subdued street, and something about it felt inviting. Elon decided to pull over. He stepped inside and was greeted by a delightful mix of savory aromas, freshly sliced fish, warm miso broth, and the slight tang of soy sauce. The space was modest but immaculate, with a few wooden tables and a long counter where a man in his 60s, wearing a crisp white chef's coat, worked with practiced precision. A woman, likely his wife, moved gracefully between the tables, her smile lighting up the room as she served dishes with genuine warmth. Only 3 other customers were present, a young couple quietly sharing a platter of sushi, and a man in his work uniform sipping a steaming bowl of ramen. Elon chose a seat at the counter, not wanting to draw attention. The chef greeted him with a slight bow, his hands never pausing in their work. "Good evening. What would you like tonight?" the chef asked in a soft but confident voice. Elon glanced at the handwritten menu on the wall and ordered the chef's recommendation, a sashimi platter. As he waited, Elon found himself relaxing in the quiet rhythm of the restaurant. The gentle clinking of chopsticks, the faint hissing from the kitchen, and the occasional murmur of conversation created an atmosphere worlds away from the high-stakes meetings and endless phone calls that dominated his life. The chef placed the platter in front of him with a proud smile. It was a work of art, thinly sliced tuna, salmon, and yellowtail arranged like a fan, garnished with delicate sprigs of shiso and a dollop of freshly grated wasabi. "Enjoy," the chef said, stepping back to focus on his next dish. Elon picked up his chopsticks and took a bite. The fish melted in his mouth, its freshness and quality unmistakable. For a moment, he forgot everything else. As he ate, his gaze wandered back to the elderly couple. The chef's movements were steady but tired, his hands bearing the marks of decades of hard work. His wife's energy never wavered, though there was a quiet weariness in her eyes. It was clear that this restaurant was their life, a labor of love that likely came with its fair share of challenges. But why did they keep going? The question lingered in Elon's mind as he finished his meal, setting the stage for what would become an unforgettable night. Elon leaned back slightly, savoring the last bite of sashimi as his eyes drifted over the details of the small restaurant. The walls were decorated with faded photographs and handwritten notes from customers over the years. Some were simple thank yous, while others told stories of anniversaries, first dates, or quiet celebrations shared within these walls. Each note carried a sense of gratitude and admiration, a testament to how much this place meant to the people who knew it. The woman at the tables, her name tag read Akiko, paused for a moment to refill the water glass of the man with the ramen. Her voice was soft, but her laughter carried an unmistakable warmth when he thanked her with a joke. Elon noticed how she moved with careful efficiency, balancing trays and bowls as though it were second nature, even while engaging each patron with kindness. Meanwhile, the chef, Hideo, as Akiko had affectionately called him earlier, remained focused at the counter. His hands worked with practiced precision, slicing tuna into perfect, even pieces. His face was etched with concentration, but it was the kind of focus that came from decades of mastery, not from the rush of trying to keep up. There was something calming, almost meditative, about watching him work. But as Elon continued observing, he noticed the small details that others might overlook. The chairs were slightly worn, their edges rounded from years of use. The light above the counter flickered faintly, struggling to keep its glow. Even the kitchen equipment seemed to have aged gracefully, with scratches and dings that spoke of countless meals prepared with love. Elon thought about how much effort it must take to keep a business like this alive in a world dominated by fast food chains and delivery apps. He could imagine the challenges they faced: rising costs, shrinking margins, and a market that often favored speed over quality. Yet, here they were, putting their hearts into every dish, every interaction. A family of 4 entered the restaurant, their laughter filling the space as they took a seat by the window. Akiko greeted them warmly and handed over menus with the same genuine smile she'd shown everyone else. Elon couldn't help but admire how she treated every customer like an old friend. It struck him how rare this was. In a world increasingly driven by efficiency and profit, places like Hoshizora Sushi, where food was made with care and people were treated with respect, were becoming harder to find. He felt a pang of respect for the couple's resilience and dedication. The family's youngest child, a boy no older than 6, wandered toward the counter, captivated by the way Hideo arranged slices of fish on a plate. The chef glanced down and gave the boy a quick smile before offering him a small cucumber roll to try. The boy's face lit up, and his parents quickly thanked Hideo for the kind gesture. Elon chuckled quietly. It was a simple moment, but it spoke volumes about the kind of people Hideo and Akiko were. They didn't just run a restaurant, they created a space where people felt valued. As he watched, Elon couldn't shake the thought that these moments of connection were exactly what the world needed more of. He realized he had the ability to do something about it, even in a small way. He began forming an idea, one that would leave a lasting impact on not just the restaurant, but everyone who walked through its doors. Elon stood up from his seat, catching Akiko's attention as he walked toward the counter where Hideo was plating a colorful sushi roll for the family of 4. The chef glanced up, startled but polite as Elon leaned in slightly. "This is some of the best sushi I've had," Elon said sincerely. "You're an artist." Hideo's face softened, and he offered a humble nod. "Thank you. We do our best." Elon hesitated for a moment, then decided to go for it. "You've been doing this for a long time, haven't you?" Hideo nodded again. 35 years. Akiko and I started this place when we were newly married. It's been our home ever since." Akiko, overhearing their conversation, chimed in as she approached with a teapot. "Our children helped out here when they were younger, but they've grown and moved away. Now, it's just the 2 of us." Her tone was light, but Elon could hear the undercurrent of pride and sacrifice in her words. This wasn't just a business, it was their life's work. "I can tell how much heart you put into this place," Elon said. "It's rare to see that these days." Akiko smiled warmly, bowing slightly. "That means a lot. Thank you." Elon turned his gaze toward the restaurant, watching the family laugh over their meal and the man with the ramen chatting with Akiko about the weather. Something clicked in his mind, a realization that this wasn't just about good food. This was about preserving a space where people could connect, share, and feel at home. He leaned closer to Hideo and spoke softly. "I'd like to pay for everyone's meals tonight, quietly. Can you do that for me?" Hideo froze for a moment, his knife hovering midair. "Everyone?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elon nodded. "Yes. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just let them know it's taken care of when they go to pay." Akiko's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes widening. "That's incredibly kind of you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "It's nothing," Elon replied, waving it off. "Just a small way to show appreciation." But he wasn't done. After a pause, he continued. "Actually, I'd like to help you with something else. Your equipment. It looks like it's seen better days. And these lights, they're not the most efficient, are they?" Hideo and Akiko exchanged a glance, unsure of where he was going with this. "We've been meaning to replace some things," Hideo admitted. "But, costs add up." Elon smiled. "What if I covered that for you? New kitchen equipment, energy-efficient lighting, maybe even some solar panels for the roof. It would save you money in the long run." Akiko looked like she might cry. "We couldn't possibly accept that," she began, but Elon raised a hand to stop her. "Consider it an investment in keeping this place alive," he said. "What you've built here, it's special. People need places like this. I just want to make sure it stays around for another 35 years. Hideo's eyes glistened with emotion as he set down his knife and extended his hand. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with gratitude. We'll never forget this. Elon shook his hand firmly, feeling a rare sense of fulfillment that had nothing to do with rockets or electric cars. As Akiko hurried off to the kitchen to compose herself, Elon turned back to his seat, blending once more into the quiet rhythm of the restaurant. One by one, the other customers approached the counter to pay, only to be met with Akiko's soft announcement. Your meal has been covered tonight. Please enjoy your evening. Their reactions ranged from stunned disbelief to joyful laughter. The family of four clapped their hands together in thanks, while the man with the ramen grinned broadly, shaking Hideo's hand before leaving. Each person walked out with a lighter step, carrying the warmth of the gesture with them. And as the door closed behind the last customer, Hideo and Akiko stood together behind the counter, their expressions a mix of gratitude and awe, wondering how one evening could hold so much kindness. The restaurant grew quiet as the last customer left, the gentle chime of the doorbell fading into the stillness. Akiko stood by the counter, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the small vase of flowers on the counter. Hideo wiped his hands on a towel, glancing at his wife, his expression soft but unreadable. Did that really just happen? Akiko whispered, her voice breaking slightly as she turned to her husband. Hideo nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting the same disbelief she felt. It did. Elon, still seated at the counter, offered them a small smile. You deserve it, he said simply. And I meant what I said about helping with the upgrades. Someone from my team will reach out in the next few days to work out the details. Akiko pressed a hand to her chest, visibly moved. We don't know how to thank you. Keep doing what you're doing, Elon replied. That's thanks enough. The night might have ended there, but news of the evening spread faster than anyone expected. One of the customers, the man who had been quietly eating his ramen, shared the story on social media before heading home. His post read, "Just had the most incredible experience at Hoshizora Sushi. The owner's kindness is unmatched. But tonight, Elon Musk himself paid for everyone's meals and offered to help them upgrade their restaurant. This place deserves all the love and support we can give." By the next morning, the post had gone viral. People from all over Fremont, and even beyond, were sharing stories of their own experiences at Hoshizora Sushi. Many recalled the warm smiles of Akiko and Hideo, the thoughtful gestures like the complimentary tea refills or the small treats Hideo would make for children who visited. Suddenly, the tiny restaurant that had quietly been serving the community for decades became the center of attention. Local news outlets picked up the story, and people began flocking to the restaurant, eager to experience the magic for themselves. But it wasn't just about curiosity or celebrity. Inspired by Elon's gesture, other acts of kindness began surfacing. A local bakery offered to provide free desserts to the restaurant for a week. A nearby carpenter volunteered to build new shelves for their pantry. Even the local farmers market community stepped in, promising fresh ingredients at a discounted rate to help the couple keep costs manageable. Hideo and Akiko were overwhelmed but deeply touched. Each person who walked through their doors seemed to carry with them a piece of the goodwill that had sparked that night. Regulars brought friends to share in the experience, and newcomers left promising to return. For Elon, it was never about the publicity. He didn't even comment publicly on the story when asked by reporters. To him, the real joy came from knowing he had helped preserve a place where kindness was the foundation. One evening, about a week after his visit, Elon drove by the restaurant again. The once quiet street was now bustling with activity. Families were gathered outside, chatting and laughing as they waited for a table. The soft glow of the restaurant's windows had never seemed brighter. As he watched from his car, a thought crossed his mind. Small acts of kindness, even ones that felt insignificant in the grand scheme of things, had a way of growing into something far greater than anyone could imagine. And at the heart of it all were Hideo and Akiko, continuing to do what they did best, bringing people together one meal at a time. A week later, Elon found himself seated at the kitchen table in his Los Angeles home, a rare moment of quiet in his typically chaotic schedule. A notification buzzed on his phone, another message about Hoshizora Sushi. He swiped to open it and was met with a photo of Hideo and Akiko standing proudly outside their restaurant, a bright new sign overhead that read, Hoshizora Sushi, 35 years of love and tradition. The caption read, "Thanks to the incredible kindness of our community and one very special guest, we've been able to make some amazing upgrades. We're ready for the next 35 years. Come join us for a meal and be part of our story." Elon smiled to himself, setting the phone down. He hadn't gone back to the restaurant since that night, wanting to let the couple enjoy their newfound attention without the added pressure of his presence. But he had followed their journey closely, watching as their small business blossomed into a beacon of hope for the community. He reflected on the simplicity of the act, paying for a few meals, offering some resources. It wasn't a grand gesture by his standards, but the impact it had was undeniable. The couple's hard work and dedication had inspired him, and in turn, his gesture had inspired others. It was a reminder that kindness, when shared, had a way of multiplying far beyond its original intent. Elon leaned back in his chair, his thoughts drifting to the countless small businesses across the country, each with its own story, its own struggles. Not every act of kindness had to be monumental to matter. Sometimes it was the little things, acknowledging someone's effort, lightening their burden, or simply being present in their moment, that made the biggest difference. The next day, his team received instructions to reach out to other small restaurants and community hubs, offering similar help, no strings attached. It wasn't about making headlines, it was about preserving the soul of communities and encouraging others to do the same. As the evening sun cast long shadows over his table, Elon typed a quick message on social media, one of the rare times he felt compelled to share a personal thought. The world runs on hard work, resilience, and kindness. Supporting those who keep that alive is the least we can do. The post gained traction almost immediately, sparking a wave of conversations about the importance of supporting local businesses and paying kindness forward. People began sharing their own stories of acts of generosity, inspired by what had happened at Hoshizora Sushi. And while Elon didn't reply to the flood of comments, he read them quietly, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. He wasn't looking for gratitude or recognition. For him, the real success was knowing he had played a part in something much bigger than himself, a movement driven by compassion, humanity, and the simple yet profound idea that kindness could change lives. As he closed his laptop for the night, one thought lingered in his mind. If every person took one moment out of their day to lift someone else up, imagine the world we could build together. And that's the story of a small act of kindness that grew into something far greater. If this story inspired you, take a moment to think about how you can support the people around you, whether it's a small business in your neighborhood, a friend who needs a hand, or even a stranger in need of kindness. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories that remind us what truly matters. Together, we can create a better world, one small act at a time.